Welcome to A Couple of Musicians.
Today on the show, we're talking with Jim Neglia.
We're super excited. He is a very creative musician who's carved out the most diverse and incredible career for himself.
He worked for a long time with the New Jersey Symphony, and now he's down in Jacksonville.
He also has contracted for huge venues and gigs like Game of Thrones
and
Zelda video games. We can't wait to talk to him and hear all about what's going on in his life.
It's so great to see you both.
It's so great to see you.
We need pictures of every stage of your life.
Yeah, right. Like no, I have them. Trust me.
3-year-old pictures, 13-year-old.
My mother would be proud, let me tell you.
So you guys are working down in Jacksonville, and so we want to hear all about the COVID protocols and everything that you guys are going through.
I'm grateful that I could employ 54 of our musicians, like full-time salaries. They took a 10% pay cut. The staff took a 10% pay cut, which in this climate is nothing. It's zero. I sat in on web seminars and I've done so much homework. I know so much about aerosols now. My head is I just want to share with our colleagues in the United States, Canada, wherever, that there is a path forward. Tricky, but there's a path forward and there's a way to do this.
So you feel safe with the protocols that you have in place at the hall?
I feel more comfortable than I have in a long time. Feeling safe is a really strong word, but you know, someone gets infected, then a few weeks later we know. So we're now in our 5th week of the season, like 5 full weeks, and there have been no cases reported either in the audience or on the staff or the musicians. And I'm under direct orders that if anybody gets COVID or is tested positive, it has to go through me, and I'm doing all of the contact tracing. My office does that. And so on that level, I guess the answer is yes, I do feel safe. I think we're doing everything imaginable, and every study in the world talks about aerosols, and we use Merck 13 covers for all of our bells, oboes, English horns, clarinets, bassoons, trumpets, everything, you name anything with the bell. And then there's 6-foot plexiglass boxes, you know, built around everybody.
Yeah.
You know, but even with that, we have to think about the air exchange in the building, and the plexiglass houses then take more time for the house to clear out because there's obstructions. But it's a catch-22 again, where I'd rather have the aerosols taken care of and a little bit more time in between services. But yeah, man, it has been, you know, it's a hell of a tackle that we're performing here.
We are super sad that here in New York City, nothing is happening. When I see the videos in Germany, the audiences are very sparse. What are your audiences in Jacksonville? We
could fit 1,800 plus people in our hall, and we're seating now roughly 550. I want to say 560. That's what's in my head, but it's right around there. So what we do is we have covers for all the seats that you can sit in. And when people buy tickets for the next concerts, we block them out strategically and then change the covers accordingly.
Neat.
So it's like there's a front of house plan, there's a back of house plan, there's an on-stage plan. The bathrooms have like X's on every other stall, like you name it. We shut all the water fountains off, no vending machines, like anything you can touch has been open, has been propped open. Anything where people can have contact has been obliterated, literally, from the hall. By far, and I want to underscore this, I have never in my career worked with such a professional orchestra committee, ever. And especially the chair of ROC. He's like, you know, we're supposed to be fighting, you know, management and the players, right? Everything. It's not. It's the complete opposite. And we've made a deal with each other when I took the job a few years ago that he's going to trust me until I do something wrong, and I'm going to trust him until he does something wrong. And we have had just an absolutely rock solid relationship, which then allows us to build so many things on top of that. But we're working right now with a board member who we're hoping will sponsor, in conjunction with the Mayo Clinic down here, to sponsor some sort of regular testing for our musicians. And it's a really hard negotiation, as you can imagine. It's very expensive. We're committing to our budget for the entire year. That's 38 weeks, like straight.
For anybody that comes to the school, they have to fill out a online form about their health situation every time they come. And we have a temperature scanner when they walked in. What do you have those things, and what other things like that do you have?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I skipped right over. It's, like, first of all, nobody's allowed in the building without a mask. Nobody. And so let's go from walking in the door. Their temperature is taken, but when they wake up in the morning, if they have one symptom of COVID, it could be a sore throat, a headache, a slight fever, anything. I say, listen, how are you feeling? But when there's two symptoms, I don't even ask. I force them. They stay home, and I don't charge them sick time. I don't charge them. It doesn't come from their bank. And these musicians have up to 80 services in their bank, and I still don't charge them for COVID-related sicknesses.
Right.
So, but then I send them, I say, you need to go do a COVID test and not a rapid test, like a 48-hour test. And because I find them, in my experience thus far, to be a little bit more accurate than the rapid test. And then once they come in to the building, the strings and woodwinds go right into the hall, and they unpack their cases in the place where the patrons would sit. So they're already socially distant. And the low brass and the cello and the basses go to the lounge, which have 6-foot decals everywhere. They unpack. They've got 3 minutes to unpack and get on stage. That's all. I said, make it 2. They get on stage, and they can't even get up to go to the bathroom till rehearsal's over. When rehearsal's over, they pack up and they go home. They have to exit the building. There's no talking with each other. There's no socializing, period. Not in the building anyway. Yeah. And those are some of the precautions that we put into place. I found this woman in Colorado who, believe it or not, is a curtain maker, who makes these masks that have holes in them with magnets. And when they're playing, a trumpet player, they play, and then when they stop, it just seals. And all of even the double reeds, Keve, even the double reeds are using them. And we've designed certain masks. The flutists have special masks that they put the flute into now. I've been using the Defenders, but I'm nervous with aerosols still. And we even had singers in a few weeks last week, and they were masked up, and we had, that drum barrier behind them and in front of them, even with masks and microphones. Yeah. So I think that we're doing, like, if somebody gets sick in our building, I'm going to freak out because I don't know how it happened.
Right,
so
right.
I think like we started earlier, that each day or each week, we find out a little bit more about aerosols and how they work, and with choruses and singing. And so I'm a little bit more mindful, but to share with everybody and the two of you, I was really, really nervous about coming back to work. Flying. So, and my car, we have a home down here now, and my car lives here, and I hadn't seen my car in 7 months. It was like I didn't know what I was going to come back to. You have to sign a waiver that you're going to wear a mask when you fly. Right. That's it. So, and I still buy my first class seat in the front because I feel better, but I feel like that's money spent on my sanity and my nerves, and yeah. I have a wife and kids to deal with too. I don't want to leave them.
Let's talk about the really exciting gig that you have, which is contracting all these huge jobs. I think people are going to want to know, like, how did that start for you?
I went to school with a conductor, and we were really good friends, and we didn't see each other for 20 some odd years. Maybe 6 years ago or so, our paths crossed again. And she said to me, I'm conducting something at the NJ PAC. And at the time I was, working in New Jersey. And I said, oh, that's great. I said, I have a concert that night, but I'll come and see you after. And she said, that would be great. And then I wrote back to her and I said, what are you conducting? And she said, I'm doing this video game called The Legends of Zelda. And I said, wait, do you need an orchestra? She said, oh, of course I need an orchestra. And then I said to her, do you know what I do for my living? And she said, I thought you were a percussionist. And I said, I am a percussionist. Anyway, so through her connection, She introduced me to the owner of the business named Massimo Gallotta. He lives in New York City, a fellow paisan, which I'm always happy to make acquaintance to. And we got together and had lunch. And I said, listen, you've got he had 40 Zelda shows throughout the United States that were coming up in the next, 6 to 8 months, whatever it was. And I said, well, who are you using to put this together? And he said, I just lost my, the person that I was using. He introduced me to a Chicago promoter who was doing a Final Fantasy. So I started booking Final Fantasy as well, but I was only doing maybe 10 or 15 of those a year. But with Massimo, I'm now doing 40, 50 shows throughout the United States, employing choruses and 60-piece orchestras everywhere. I love being a personnel manager. I love being a contractor. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing people smiling, sending me thank you letters. And it kind of rolled into, oh, we have the Hans Zimmer tour is coming up. Would you like to book, the East Coast? Oh, Game of Thrones is coming in. Could you pick that up for us as well? And then the Who tour came in, and then Hugh Jackman, Weird Al Yankovic. I can go on down, but all of a sudden, I vowed to myself from the beginning of my career, I wasn't going to knock on doors and make phone calls. It was either going to happen organically and naturally, or it wasn't meant to be for me. But everything kind of took off very quickly. And I found myself going more gray in the past few years. If I didn't get fired from my job at the New Jersey Symphony, I would not be where I am today. Yeah. And sometimes in life, my friends, something that hurts and that's so painful for a moment has a bigger purpose that we're unaware of. And I would caution anybody listening to my voice that if you get fired or released from something that is so painful, something better is waiting for you.
Let's talk briefly about your books that you've written.
My first book, I titled Onward and Upward. It was written back in 2012, I believe, is when it came out, because my professor at the Mannes College of Music would end every email he sent to me, Onward and Upward. And I love this man to this day. He was my surrogate father. I grew up without a father. He was the closest thing I ever knew as one. And I dedicated this book in its entirety to him. I was able to publish it while he was still alive, which I was very grateful for. And I followed it by my second book called Center Stage, which really puts Jim Neglia center stage, not only in the arts, but in my heritage of where our family came from in Sicily as musicians. I'm many generations deep, and how it ties into my love of travel, my love of music, and then a bunch of stories about Johnny Mathis and other things that I've been booking and doing in my life. The third book is, I came up with a title called Visitors from the Past, because it's all about visiting cards and 19th century composers and composers, conductors, and instrumentalists of the 19th century. There's a really good arc right now that isn't complete, but I think it's given me purpose to try to complete with. I think book number 4 could possibly be either Growing Up Neglia, which is kind of boring, or being that I've used center stage, I have to come up with something that I could tie even to COVID that is more timely. But and how you could have all the arts in your hand. And I've been blessed in like 1,000 times over with my work. And then in one night, someone pulls the carpet out, because there's nothing I'm saying now that all of you can't relate to. We've all lived this now. And Broadway's closed for a year, if not longer. And orchestras, the Met, the Philharmonic, right on down the line. And here I am living a scared life in Florida on some level of COVID, but I'm working and grateful, but looking at my colleagues who are, they want to work and I can't put them to work. Yeah. So I want to tie that into a book.
Jim, you live such an inspired life. You're one of the most positive, optimistic people that I know. Whenever I would work for you, you made me feel so comfortable. You have a true gift with that. So I thank you for being that person in our musical life.
That means a great deal to me. I appreciate the two of you very much.
Well, Jim, stay healthy and safe down there in Florida. We're glad that you're working, and it's amazing to hear more from you and about what's going on right now in this time. We need to hear more positive stories.
What a pleasure. Thank you. I'm going to go raise goats and drink wine.